There are two soundbite questions that appears throughout the conferences and the symposium repeatedly. One of it is AI just a tool? Another one is, will AI ever replace human creators for good? Oftentimes, these simplistic questions will give simplistic answers. The general consensus by the speakers is that AI replaces tasks, not jobs. It replaces people who don't use AI, but not human labor. AI will replace simple repetitive tasks that you would ask an entry level to do, but not expert level or high-risk tasks. So it's kind of reassuring to hear that jobs are not going away, at least the way we would imagine. However, these simplistic answers neglected how new roles could emerge and the old ones might die, as the workflow of knowledge work might be radically different. Even though there is some sense of reassurance, but the underlying message is actually brewing a new FOMO, that if they don't get on this bandwagon of AI radical innovation, they'll be left out. They will cease to be competitive. And that led to much anxiety and hence the need to go into these conferences and to listen the lessons to be preached by those speakers. Having said that, if we focus our lenses to the creative work, even if AI can really replicate 100% what a human creator can do, still, that shouldn't be a problem, because if music, art, paintings, literature, all of them are ways to produce meaning in our society, a way to make sense of the human condition, then what's the meaning of it if we just automate everything? If we extract the human from the equation? Another way to put it is that even if an AI does yoga better than you, this doesn't stop you from doing yoga yourself. To some kind of creative task, or to some people, there are intrinsic value in creativity. The process is enjoyable and fulfilling, and that's something that could never be automated or replaced. When we talk about art, people often say it's about asking questions. Then, can AI ask questions for us? And when we talk about design, some would say it's about solving problems, and also finding problems. Can AI figure out what problem to solve? Even though if they can indeed solve some problems for us. Currently, AI take orders. They spit out responses based on the prompts we input. They couldn't figure out what problem to solve yet unless if given specific instructions. So, in the domain of UX design or product design, designers are still pretty safe if they do own the domain of problem finding and problem articulation, because it requires multidisciplinary efforts and a lot of communication, politics, negotiation skills. AI nowadays still requires too much guidance and doesn't understand the context behind the problem and also behind the organization. I would even argue that AI doesn't have empathy and a true understanding of human psychology. Yes, it can explain some theories of human psychology, but that doesn't mean that it have true empathy. It replicates what others have written about user persona and market segment online. But it cannot reason with it properly, and it doesn't have the aha moment that brings joy to every UX or product designer. There is some merit to the idea that creative practitioners and also designers who uses AI have a competitive edge in the labor market. There are a few early adopters of AI who have been experimenting different ways to integrate AI into the workflow. And like most things in reality, it's a combination of something awesome and something scary. According to the speakers who are creative professionals that is integrating AI, these technologies help them to become more efficient in the concept and visualization stage. For filmmakers, this helps them speed up the ideation phase, iteration cycle. It breaks the writer's block and keeps the creative momentum flowing. There's also the benefit of helping the teams communicate visually, aligning the creative vision and pitching ideas to management and people who control budget much more efficiently and effectively. Imagine studio executives without any capabilities to imagine and visualize ideas. Now, with generative AI storyboards, animatics, and trailers, filmmakers can create strong emotion and excitement from them to get green light and the budget. All sounds pretty and well and fancy. Efficiency, effectiveness, who wouldn't love that? But there seems to be an assumption that faster iteration and better team collaboration means higher quality in the end product, because creatives can now spend more energy in what really matters. But is that true indeed? To reiterate, saving time and having better alignment would result in faster iteration and more cost savings, so that time and money and energy can focus on what really matters and eventually have better outcome. But if you use it long enough, you'll start to see it converge back to the same old content, if not spammy content. So, with efficiency gain and effectiveness gain, are we sacrificing quality and meaning in the creative output? When you go to conferences like South by, or go to YouTube to look for influences on AI and creativity, many of them are saying you should start learning to create with AI today. And there are many more audience like us that are feeling FOMO and want to learn how to pick up this skill. But there's not much discussions on the challenges creators faces when they work with AI, and also the harms that comes with it. Not necessarily harms to the society, but harms to the creator themselves and to the creative industry. So first, when we work with AI, we are working with a tool or material or thinking partner or a musical instrument. Whatever you want to position it, there will always be biases baked in. It is as good, if not 80% as good, as the training dataset that comes with it. Not only dataset, but also there are a lot of intricate post-processing, and also how the algorithm is designed, how the dataset is curated, filtered, or not filtered. There are a lot of human decisions that are not so obvious when we use those tools. Technology is always created within the cultural scope of its creators. And when we talk about generative AI, it is the cultural scope of the big tech and also the data scientists and computer scientists. The way they view culture as a dataset is often over simplistic. For example, when we think about music generation AI, a lot of the dataset ignores the global south music, and the notation doesn't consider the differences in scale and sonic space of non-Western culture. Naturally, the dataset and the models often doesn't work well with those low resources languages and cultural artifacts. To musicians in Thailand, in Bangladesh, in Tibet, it seems like their culture doesn't exist in the eyes of the AI, or in the eyes of the engineers behind the AI. And if they want to use the AI to create music, they are forced to use the Western perspective of music, or the Western definition of music, which is the predominant occupants of the modern internet. Creativity is always cultural, social, and political. But if these creativity tools are so limited and so biased, over-reliance on them will not only replicate and perpetuate those biases and the power system behind it, but also it will be a shame that the creative output will lack the cultural nuances and the beauty of it. Not to mention other biases like gender, racial, and ableism. Besides being bias-baked, another challenge when working with AI is that all machine learning systems are often probabilistic, or non-deterministic, stochastic, or simply full of unexpected behaviors. Depending the way you look at it, it can be a feature or it can be a bug. Sometimes it's so seemingly random, it helps you with inspiration because it's so out of control. It can also slow you down if you already have a very clear vision that you want to execute. It's like you have a creative partner who is drunk. It's good that if you're still in the early stage and you want to banter and get into a very creative flow of generating novel ideas, digging into the subconscious. But if you already have a storyboard that you need to shoot, or if you already have something carefully planned out, you cannot work with a drunk person that way. Whenever a creative already have a very specific and clear vision, they need full control. And in that moment, generative AI is not useful. But if it's just for some mood board, then a good level of randomness is preferred. Okay, we've talked about two challenges in a pretty personal or deliverable level, but there are also two problems that expand to the industry and also to the societal level. Let's start with stagnation. There are three kinds of stagnation in the creative output. The first one is that when a human creator became more and more over-reliant to the AI, or to the way of integrating AI into the workflow, they might lose the ability to brainstorm effectively alone. There could be some part in the brain deprived of practice that becomes weak. In a way, we might grow to become lazier and lazier in thinking and creative exploration. Besides the individual level, when we look at the team collaboration level, there could also be some risk to that. Imagine if every film starts in high fidelity. We skipped all the script writing, storyboarding, mood boarding, and go straight to the final film production. It would take away the team's imagination agency and the sense of ownership. The concept artist, the choreographer, the cinematographer, the makeup artist, all of them will feel much less invested and involved in the co-imagination stage. They'll all be locked up and they are simply being the one who execute the AI's imagination, assuming they still are needed in the film production. If you've been in advertising or film or any creative industry that requires many sub-steps and many specialties, creative professions like the ones I've mentioned, then you'll definitely appreciate the collaboration aspect of those projects. A teammate would build an idea and another teammate will build on top of it. But imagine that collaboration dynamic is being replaced by AI automation. We lose all that relationship building and bonding, and it all became just a job to execute, more bland, more meaningless. Besides stagnation, there's also the swamping problem. As AI and computing are getting better and better, AI-generated content will scale exponentially. There'll be more of it with lower costs and with less time. And the natural outcome is that it will flood the media and our attention with AI-generated content, because humans cannot scale as fast as those AI systems. And if all of our social media streams, our Netflix, our cinemas are flooded with AI content, and assuming humans only have a limited attention, then there will be naturally a very low chance of us being exposed to human creation, because we got out-compete in speed, not quality. There's another side of the swamping problem, which is, what if there is a limited space of all possible creative achievements? Imagine if it's the domain of culinary art. There could be just, I don't know, 1 million or a quadrillion possible dishes that one could cook up. Then it'll be a zero-sum game between human and AI. We'll be competing who get to invent the new dishes, to combine ingredients, cook them in novel ways, to create a new kind of flavor, a new kind of sensory experience. And if AI and computing scale much faster than human, then not only that, we might lose the game of hooking audience attention, but also we'll be losing the game of exploring the space of creative achievement. They will always be the first to combine this taste with that ingredient, with that cultural recipe. They'll always be the first to come up with a new way of making plant-based meat or a new kind of gummy bears flavor. Because once you have invented something, you can never invent it again. We are already seeing some early signs of that happening, not in the creativity field, but in the scientific discovery field, where AI is being used to create medicine, to fold proteins, and to predict new kind of mechanical structures, materials. They are being used to explore the possible space of invention, where humans cannot scale as fast as they can. And imagine similar systems are being invented for creative entertainment, for films, music, and games. What would that mean to the creative industries and to human creators? Those are really big questions that wasn't answered well in the South by conferences, but are being discussed more in the academia, in the symposium. Of course, there are also other challenges like trust, ownership, intellectual property, etc. So much more that we should be discussing as an industry and to start planning ahead how we can build and prepare for a more preferable future. As an individual, if we want to use AI in our creative project, how can we use it right? Or in a proper way that, at least in the short term, doesn't bite us back? Ioana Telamu from Miro has gave us some simple but yet timeless tips. Always start with people, their pain, their aspiration, their feelings, their thoughts. Be respectful, be accountable, don't lie and cheat. And never use AI for AI's sake. Make things that ages nicely. Don't use AI for final execution, but use it for ideation and inspiration, and then remix the output to add your own human interpretation. You can use it to scan and discover inspirational seeds from raw materials, and then reframing them into your own way. Just like how we have always been told in design schools to not copy the references you found on Behance or Pinterest. Understand them, reframe them, interpret them, and add your own voice. So, turns out the really important lessons that matters are nothing new. And that's pretty reassuring to know.